You mentioned there about fleeing Lebanon in '06 via Syria. I wasn't aware about that. Would you mind talking about that a little
Well,
bit?
yeah, I was coaching Leinster at the time, so it was the off season, and pre-season was about to start. I had 1 year at Leinster at the time, so I went over to the States, met her, and we had some bad news while we were there about my cousin, who I did speak about earlier, who passed away in Lebanon on a trip there. And so it was pretty hectic. We were brought up like all brothers and sisters pretty much. So he was from Australia. He was there on a visit. And so I wanted to go for the funeral. I sent my sister back to Oz and I went back through Ireland. Actually, I was able to get back to get to Lebanon, and I stayed there a few days. My cousins were there from Australia, and the day I was due to leave, Israel invaded. They bombed the airport. I actually didn't even, we're up in the north. I didn't even know. Someone from Australia rang us up and said, "Are you okay? What's going on?" So it was quite a big invasion. A lot of infrastructure was blown up. There was a full-scale evacuation, of many people. I'd say it was slightly different to what's happening now. It was much more targeted, so they took the airport out. They took out a lot of infrastructure. And we were sort of stuck up in the north. There was no fighting where we were exactly, or bombing. Tripoli, maybe 20 minutes away. But we waited a few days to see what was going on, and it didn't look like that was going to stop. So I had to get back. Pre-season training was starting.
Training's on Monday, mate.
Yeah, well, pretty much. That was the discussion, right? And it was pretty weird. Like, my cousins took me down to the local prefecture, right, and they got me some documents. I don't know what they said, right? I had my photo on it. So they said, "We're going to try and go through Syria. I just got a water cache of US to bribe your way through." There was a few other guys in the car with me that came I had to drive to Tripoli where there was a bit of action, get in the car and then go out to Syria, through Syria. Syria hadn't had problems at that stage, so if you got to Syria, it was plain sail into the airport. Now, I didn't have a ticket or anything, but anyway.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, yeah.
So the driver tried several border crossings, because you'd want to go back through the western side. Well, no, the eastern side, excuse me. The eastern side, across the mountains. And at many crossings, it was impossible to get over. The amount of people that were trying to get out on foot. And it's pretty hairy because you can hear the planes. Yeah, it's a small country. There's obviously military already there. Syria had an occupation going on at the time, so there's a lot of weaponry around. There's shooting going on that you can hear in the distance. We would have tried, I think, 3 different exits, like border crossings, and couldn't get across any of them. And then the guy was getting quite frustrated, the driver. And I remember he took us down a road that had I think it was sugarcane maybe, high, really high. So it was one road, and either side of you there was sugarcane that was quite high, like the size of a double-decker bus maybe. And we drove there for maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Through. If a car was coming another way, you were shot. I don't know what would have happened. And he popped out right on the coast. And I looked to the left. So if you go right, there's the frontier to go to Syria. There's border gates. It'd be like, you see sometimes on the cinema or in movies, the Mexican crossing with the US. It was like that. But you look to the left and there was a highway of cars as far as you could see. Like, I don't know, it was like to the horizon of 5 across, cars trying to get out. And so he somehow pushed his way in there, and in between Syria and Lebanon, there's a no man's land, like where you have to. So I was hoping that with those documents, I wouldn't need a visa because I had an Australian passport, which, yeah, okay, you're still a bit of a Westerner going into Syria. It wasn't, you need a visa. So I got in there, and that's when we started using the cash, obviously. There was a visa office that maybe was what could I say? It wasn't huge. It was maybe 80 square metres, 100 square metres max. There was, I don't know how many hundred people in there trying to get visas, people outside trying to climb in through the windows, soldiers shooting in the air to make. And now I think I can handle myself in most situations, but I was like, I'm just hiding in the corner here and letting this guy do what he does. There would have probably been a couple of 100,000 people in the no man's land. So many foreigners I saw that were lost, crying, had kids trying to get out. I could have just disappeared off the face of the earth then. No one would have known. Mobile phones were, I had one, but there's no reception. And you could hear the jets obviously need the length of the country to turn around almost after they bomb Beirut. So I was trying to help other people, trying to get myself through. The driver was going to leave. It was so hectic. So I probably had 10 hours there trying to get myself through. Probably spent about, I don't know, 700-800 US in paying people, because he did it all for me. I just sat back and hoped for the best. The other guys I was with, they had access already, so they weren't happy because they wanted just to get going. And it was just, I suppose the biggest thing for me were the thoughts I had when I was in there for those hours, going like, you could genuinely just disappear here and no one would know what happened to you ever. It really brought so many things home, and I felt like I was leaving my relatives behind. Both my Aussie relatives were there. They eventually got out a month later on ships the British sent in to take them out to Cyprus, and then flew home from there. And my Lebanese cousins who were there in that, I've been there many times in Civil War time as well, where, you're driving at one side of the road and it's cars, the other side of the road there's militia aircraft, taking off, using it as a runway. So it's always had that, but this was a little different. It was heavy, it was heavy bombardment. So luckily I got through eventually. And I remember when I got into Syria, I got a reception back, and I got there was a whole heap of messages started coming from Shane Horgan and Dennis Hickey. They say, we've already had 4 coaches in 4 years. We can't lose another one to a war. That would be ridiculous, And I had a laugh about it. And then I got to Damascus maybe at, 2 in the morning. I just went to to a local cafe. Like I said, I didn't have a ticket. I went to a cafe in town, got on the Argile. I don't even smoke. I was on the thing, coffees, just going, what am I doing here? Like I was literally on my own in Damascus.
Guess I'm Syrian now.
I genuinely didn't even know, I didn't even know if I'd get a ticket out of the airport. So I had a ticket from Beirut back to Ireland with Air France, I think it was, through Paris. And I went I just went at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I got a taxi to the airport and just turned up at Air France desk, and they took me. Yeah, and I remember going in, it was surreal because I was in all of that for the last 24 hours, and then I was sitting in the lounge waiting to take off, bought a backgammon set and everything. It was just like normal travel, and then watching the TV, and BBC was on, and one of the border crossings where I was and couldn't get through there, they were reporting. I remember seeing the reporters there, as they were doing it, and thinking, this is extremely weird. Yeah, and surreal. You feel guilt because you're leaving people behind. You feel happy because you're out. Yeah, and that's a huge problem. Just now I've had my relatives from Australia who were able to get out, who were there. They were able to get out on a flight to Cyprus that was organised by one of the governments. I'm not sure if it was British or Australian. But the guilt that they had leaving their relatives behind, that they got nowhere else to go. It's not their fault at all. And why, it's absolutely painful. Yeah. It's painful to watch.